Okay, last question of the test. I know it was long and hard, but you all did awesome, and let's finish this. So I'm going to get my highlighter out so I can understand the question. So here you have your friend Pat, good guy, girl, bought a fish tank that has a volume of 175 liters. So I know that. The brochure for Pat's tank lists a fun fact that it would take that many tanks to fill all the oceans in the world. Pat thinks the both of you can quickly calculate the volume of all the oceans in the world using the fun fact and the size of your tank. Alright, so we're going to calculate the oceans of the world. First part, given that 1 liter equals that cubic kilometers, rewrite the size of the tank in cubic kilometers. So I know that my answer has to be in cubic kilometers and it has to be in scientific notation. So I have the size of my tank, which is 175 liters, and 1 liter equals that many cubic kilometers. So if I multiply it times 1.0 times 10 to the negative 12th, I'll get cubic kilometers, because that's liters, this is cubic kilometers. So when I multiply 175 times 1, I get 175 times 10 to the negative 12th. I didn't even need to change that to scientific notation if I didn't want to. But now I change this to scientific notation by making my lead factor smaller, 1.75. This needs to get bigger, and by 2 places, so it'd be 10 to the negative 10th kilometers cubed. So, Pat's fish tank in answer statement is 1.75 times 10 to the negative 10th kilometers cubed. That's how big it is. There's my answer statement. And that's all we had to do is multiply those two together. Now let's see what letter B says. It says, determine the volume of all the oceans in the world in cubic kilometers using the fun fact. Use a model. So a simple model is I have a fish tank, which is 1.75 times 10 to the negative 10th. And I have all the oceans of the world, my wonderful world there, equals 7.43 times 10 to the 18th tanks, fish tanks, my little fish tanks. So if I have that many tanks in the oceans, then I need to multiply them. So I'm going to go 7.43 times 1.75. And when I multiply that, I get 13.0025. And I'm going to multiply 10 to the, 10 to the 18th, which is the oceans, times 10 to the negative 10, which is my fish tank. And I'm going to add exponents. 18 plus negative 10 is 10 to the 8th power. So all the oceans in the world equals, or adds up to, I'm going to change to scientific notation, 1.30025 times 10 to the 9th cubic kilometers. And that's all we had to do for that one. And finally, the last question. You like Pat's fish tank so much you bought a fish tank of your own that holds about 75 liters, an additional, so that's 75 liters more. Pat asked you to figure out a different fun fact for your fish tank. Pat wants to know how many tanks this new size would be needed to fill the Atlantic Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean is that many cubic kilometers. So I'm going to start with finding how much my fish tank is. And if I have 175 plus 75, it's going to equal 250 liters. Then I'm going to change the 250 liters into, I'm going to change that into cubic kilometers, which is 250 times 1 times 10 to the negative 12th, because 1 liter equals that, which gives me 250 times 10 to the negative 12th. I change it to scientific notation, and it's 2.5 times 10 to the negative 10th cubic kilometers. That's the first thing. This is my tank size. I like to label my stuff as I go. And now, if that's my tank size, I want to know, and this is how many oceans are in the world. I want to know how many tanks of this size it would need to fill the Atlantic Ocean. So this one, I need to take the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm going to change it to scientific notation. 3.236 times 10, 36 to the 8th power. I'm going to divide it by my tank, because I want to know how many of my small tanks it would take to fill the ocean. And I divide the lead factor first, and I get 1.2944 about, and then I subtract exponents. 8 minus negative 10. Well, 8 minus negative 10 is plus a positive 10, so it would be 1.944 times 10 to the 18th power tanks to fill the Atlantic Ocean. So now I just need to make sure that this makes sense, right? And let me think about it. 10 to the 18th is a really big number. I have these small tanks. My tank is really small. And I want to fill, how many of these equal the oceans? Well, it's going to take a lot of tanks to equal the oceans. That's a really big number, so that makes sense. So that's my check. All right? And that's part 2, or question number 2 on the application part. Hopefully it helped. And hopefully now you can reflect on your learning a little bit and answer any of those that